Welcome to Tangent Ratio Part 2. So in this lesson, we're going to practice how to find missing sides. All right, so here's our very first one. We have find QR as our question. So first, I'm going to label everything in terms of opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. So here's my angle. And before I even look at the angle, I'm going to actually trace over the 90. Why am I tracing the 90-degree angle? Because the 90-degree angle makes a little arrow if you follow the shape of it. And that means that PQ is known as your hypotenuse. Notice we do not have a hypotenuse value. I'm just labeling it as hypotenuse. All right, next. This is the angle 60 degrees given to us. We can only use either the angle 60 or this acute angle, which is 30 degrees, but we cannot use the 90. So looking far away from the 60, since it's far away, it is what is known as opposite. That means by process of elimination, QR, which is what we have to find, is our adjacent. So I'm going to put adjacent and the question mark because that is what they want us to find. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remind you if QR is what we're trying to find, then we definitely need to use it. It's adjacent. Then which one would be more helpful for us to have, the hypotenuse or the opposite? The answer is the opposite because the opposite has a value. It is 7.0, which is the same thing as 7. So let me show you what we're going to write here. We're going to write, actually I'll do it here. So, ka, and toa. And the reason we're writing that is because I need to know which of those, either sine, cosine, or tangent, would I use if I'm trying to use the opposite as well as the adjacent? And the answer to that is TOA, which is tan. So I will not use so, and I will not use ka. All right, so now that means it's tangent, so tan of 60 degrees equals. And if you follow this, O means opposite, A means adjacent. So in this case, it would be 7.0, same thing as 7, over your adjacent. As you can see, your adjacent is what we're trying to find, and it's called QR. So I'm just going to call it QR as well. All right, at this moment, I would ask all of you, especially if we were in class, would we multiply or switch? If you have a variable in the denominator, would you multiply or would you switch? The answer is that you would switch. You're just going to switch the position of QR and the position of tan 60. That is a quick little trick that you can do so you don't have to take a lot of steps to do what will end up being QR equals 7 divided by tan 60 degrees. We are so close to getting the answer. The only reason we don't have the answer is because we need a calculator. So I'm going to take this part right here and I'm going to put it in the calculator and we will have our final answer. So I am trying to do 7 divided by tan 60. All right, so let me go to the calculator and try to figure that out. So I just exit out of the presentation to go to my Desmo Scientific calculator. So in this calculator, I'm going to show you how to put in the thing that we were going to evaluate, which is tan 60. So tangent of 60 equals, and it was 7 divided by QR. And then remember from there, if your variable is in the denominator, you're going to switch. If I ask you multiply or switch, the answer is switch. Sorry about that. And so in the calculator right now, what I'm actually going to put is 7 divided by tan 60 degrees, and that will be equal to QR. So now that I refreshed your memory, I'm going to do that right now. You go to 7 because it was 7 divided by 10, which is there, 60. Okay, so that's how you put it in, and this should be your correct answer. Notice that I know this one is the correct answer because I did change the calculator from radians to degrees. So right now, this has to be showing degrees to know that it's in degree mode. Our final answer after we did QR was equal to 7 over tan 60. We did that in a calculator. We have a final answer, and it is approximately, that is what those squiggly equal signs look like, 4.04. And that is your final answer. Okay, now we're going to go on to the next question. Here is another one. We have, we are trying to find AC. Before you even start, you're going to take your right angle and make an arrow using the shape of it because you're pointing to your hypotenuse. Second step, identify where your angle is, which is here, and go far away. That is known as your opposite. Then we're going to label the last one, which is called adjacent. So I just labeled all of them. Next, let me see what they want. They want me to solve for AC. So if you want me to solve for AC, that means I have to include AC as an unknown. And which one would help me more? Hypotenuse, which has no value, or adjacent, which has a value? And the answer is adjacent. That would be more helpful to me right now. So that means out of SO, CA, and TOA, which one would you use? The answer is TOA. And I'll show you why. It's going to be tangent of 27 degrees. I got it from right here. Is equal to opposite, which is AC. That's what we want to try to find out, over adjacent. Adjacent is 8.0, same thing as 8. If we were in class, I would ask you, are we going to multiply or switch? And the answer is multiply. We are going to multiply 8 on both sides. And so if we do that, the 8s will cancel. So AC would equal to, if I put this in the calculator exactly the way I see it, I will get the right answer. So AC is equal to 8 times tangent 27. I'm going to go into the calculator and put that for you. So here we are again with the calculator. Remember, it was 8 tangent 27. We're multiplying both of those quantities. And so our final answer is 4.076. So why don't we just say 4.1? So let me go back to here, and I'm going to put the answer as 4.1. So just to remind you, in the end, we had 8 times tangent 27, and that was put in the calculator, but that was AC. So therefore, AC is equal to 4.1. All right, let's go on to the next one. Just give me a second, I want to clear. All right, so for the next one, we have practice 2. So practice 2 that is 21 as a degree. So let me just put that clear in here. That is 21 degrees. First step, you got to trace this over so then you can label your hypotenuse. Second step, take the 21 and travel far away. That is known as your opposite. Then the side that's closest to the 21 that is not the adjacent or the opposite is known as your hypotenuse. I think you've been getting that we are using a lot of tan today. Yes, because our lesson for today was tangent. So we're going to use TOA. So we're going to use tan of 21 degrees equals. So from 21 opposite, which is 13, over adjacent, which is what we're trying to find out. So DE was the adjacent. So I'm just going to put DE. Then in class, I would ask you, do we multiply or switch? If your unknown is on the bottom, the answer is switch. So you're going to switch these two, and you're going to get that DE is equal to 13 divided by tan, which is tangent, 21. If you put that in the calculator, you'll get the final answer. Oops, didn't mean to do that, sorry. And your final answer would be whatever that is on the calculator. So let's see what we can get in the calculator. So here I am in the calculator again. You could always hit this button here if it makes you feel better to make sure it is the proper fraction. And it was 13 over tan 21. And so our answer here is 33.866, same thing as 33.9, let's say. And make sure it's in degree mode. So the final answer for DE was 33.9, approximately. I'm going to go on to the next question. Here's number 3. All right, so, sorry about that. This is from the previous example. So for the next one, we have find AB. So I'm going to do this in order. Always trace over, make that arrow, because the 90 always points to the hypotenuse. Identify the angle they actually did give you, which is 45, because you cannot use the 90, and you have your opposite. Then the only side left that you did not label yet should be your adjacent. Your adjacent actually has a value, so we're definitely going to use that. And if you want to find AB, that means we have to also use opposite. That is going to be tangent. So it's going to be tan of 45 degrees equals opposite over adjacent. I'm going to ask you if it's multiplying or switching. And the answer for this one, since your variable is on top, is to multiply. And why do I say that? Because the opposite of dividing by 8.4 is multiplying. Okay? Then you put this in the calculator and you should get your final answer. Luckily for you, I already know what tan 45 is. Tan of 45 is actually a value of 1. It's very famous. I'm still multiplying with the 8.4, so your final answer is 8.4. In case you were wondering, how did I know that? I knew that because this is an isosceles triangle. How do I know that? Because if this is 45, 45 plus 90 is 135, subtracted from 180, and you would get another 45. Which means if this 45 points here, this 45 points here. If this is 8.4, then this also has to be 8.4 because of isosceles base angle theorem. That one was a little tricky, but it's good. I'm going to go on to the next one. This is the last example for today. If you have any questions after this, please let me know. So I'm going to first label my right angle. So here's my right angle. I'm going to create a little arrow with it. It's pointing to my hypotenuse. Then I'm going to identify the 54 because I can only use the acute angle they gave me. Far away from it is your opposite, which means that this guy has to be your adjacent. Then they want you to find PR. PR is here, so we definitely have to use opposite. And adjacent is the only one that has a numerical value. This has nothing. So we're going to use tan. So tangent, because remember, out of SOHCAHTOA or TOA, that's what TOA looks like. So tan of how many degrees? 54. Opposite, we don't know. And then adjacent is 4.6. At this point, I would ask you, multiply or switch. And the answer for this one is multiply, because we're going to multiply a 4.6 because the opposite of dividing by 4.6 is multiplying. Then you need to put this into the calculator to get your final answer for PR. Okay, so let me do that. I'm going to do 4.6 times 1054. All right, here we are again. So it would be 4.6 times 1054. And so your final answer, 6.33. I'm just going to say 6.3, as long as this is actually in degree mode. Don't make that mistake. So we have 6.3. Remember what we ended up with? Ended up being 4.6 times 1054 as your final answer for PR. Oops, sorry about that. So then it was 6.3 is your final answer for PR. So I hope that clears up how to use tangent. Good job today. Let me know if you need any help. If you do, don't hesitate to ask me. And the most important part of all, I need you to make sure you understand how to use your calculator. So to use your calculator, let me show you here. When you open up Desmos calculator, always make sure of this first. So you are making sure that this is always toggled so you can read these three letters here, which should be DEG, which means degree. If you have it toggled like this, then it says RAD, which is radians, which you will not learn until much later. So just keep it at degrees, and thank you for listening. We will learn more tomorrow. Have a nice day.